Solomon.
Solomon, yeah. So L-O, M for mother, O-N for Nigel.
Fantastic. What's your date of birth?
We are doctors, we are nurses, we are teachers, we are engineers, we are
Fantastic, sir. As long as what we've discussed is what you're going to do in terms of ask permission for interviews, ask permission prior to turning on cameras, and everybody is civil and consenting to that, then I'm happy to let you through. All right? I think you're going to do it in an adult way and get some views of either side. All right, sir? And that is your right. I have your details, so if anything comes back,
then we know when we've had this conversation.
Contact, all right?
Yes.
Fantastic, sir.
We are all on Semitic on this side. We are pro-Semitic. We are Arabs. We are children from the Lord of Isaac. We are children from the Lord of Israel.
I've just been trying to ask for permission to do some interviews, and it's a little bit difficult. I asked the steward, and he brought me to somebody else who said that we're not allowed to do interviews, and we're not allowed to talk, and he didn't want to be filmed, which I respect. But we're going to try a little bit later to interview some of the protesters.
Well, Baruch, the chap I'm filming, approached them to ask if they would be open to official questions. They said that they would not be open to official questions, it's against their policy, and they'd prefer that we didn't film anyone at all, which I thought was quite interesting. I think this kind of level of paranoia might be a response to the fact that they've been, since the last year, obviously, Sadiq Khan has told them they're not allowed to fly certain flags anymore. And yeah, it's quite interesting. I was not expecting that kind of level of defensiveness. I will get Baruch's opinion now. And by the way, I'm going to introduce myself because this might be the first official footage, so hello, but yeah.
Certainly, I think it's feeling a little bit disheartening at the moment, because I'd really love to get some feedback from the Quds demonstrators and some questions to put to the Zionist demonstrators. Because I certainly have lots of questions I'd love to put myself to both the demonstrators and the counter-demonstrators, and I feel that dialogue is really, really important. Okay. Again, I was asking somebody outside the area if they were willing to take part, and this gentleman came up right in front of me and told them not to speak, even though this was not part of the demonstration and people had a perfect right to do whatever they wish. Actually, he was very nice in that he waited for me to try and get my camera sorted before going back to the demonstration, but it took me a bit of time, but he's still standing there happily with his banner up. But I'm not trying to at him, I'm just trying to show that this is the kind of the response that we're getting. We're making a video. If you've got anything that you want to say to the Zionist demonstrators, would you be happy to take part? No, it's all right. Have you got anything you'd like to say to the Zionist demonstrators on camera? Counter-demonstrators are coming in. You're making a demonstration, you're trying to make a point. What do you want to say to them? You've got anything you'd like to say? I won't film you unless you're happy.
There is, I would estimate maybe 1,000 people, maybe 1,000 people. They want to talk to the Zionist counter-demonstrators, or kind of ask them a question through us. One lady commented that they should just be proud of their crimes. That there wasn't really any much interest in into communal dialogue, if you like. What would you, or into political dialogue? like to add anything to that, Brooke?
I'm beginning to feel sympathy with people trying to film in North Korea, and they just keep meeting a wall of silence.
Stand here.
Yeah.
Lean against the post, and I found a good stock footage is when you're leaning against the post to give your camera stability.
Good idea.
And just film people to the front.
Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. So we can just get voice recording, and that goes as a cycle. All right, brilliant. Okay, you go for it.
And then I can.
Okay, back to the studio. Now, we need to give a little bit of context here, because you might get the impression from the video footage that it was all negative, and it wasn't. We actually had some quite constructive encounters off the camera. And you've got to bear in mind that at demonstrations, a lot of people are going to be reluctant to speak to you. People are scared of getting doxxed. People are scared of saying what they think. People are camera shy. People are scared that what they say might be taken out of context. Eventually, Sean suggested to me that we try without the camera and just the microphone. And I did manage to persuade 2 people to be interviewed. Sadly, because of my incompetence with the microphone, I forgot to switch it on for one of the interviews. And with the other interview, about half of it was unintelligible.
The Zionist regime in Palestine, and we want freedom for Palestine.
I've got a question that I'd like to ask you, and I'm putting it to the Quds demonstrators, and later I'm going to put it to the Zionist counter demonstrators. This day is about our Quds, or Jerusalem. What about if Jerusalem was nobody's property, it belonged to God, it was just a place that people came to worship, it could be under UN control, it could be under the control of imams.
It was belongs to Palestinians, and then the Israeli regime came very late after, and then they took their land. Why they should sacrifice their own land to Palestinians? Of course, the Palestine should belong to Palestinians, not someone else. Everywhere is God's place, but the Palestinians own that place, their motherland. So I want Palestinians back to own land again.
Okay, if the Palestinians regain Jerusalem, how would you feel if Jews say, well, okay, but we want to come and worship at the Wailing Wall, and Christians say we want to come and worship at the Holy Sepulchre?
Of course, they should allow to Christians and then the Jewish pray their own religion in Jerusalem. Of course, no problem. I was there last month and I saw myself everyone's praying, so there was no issue. As long as the Zionist regime doesn't disturb the Palestinians.
So you're happy to see Jews praying at the Kotel?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much. Later on in the demo, we bumped into one of the many people who'd shoved a banner in front of the camera, and he was outside the barrier at the time, and the cameras were off, and while he wouldn't actually discuss anything with us, he was actually quite civil. So much so that I felt it was worthwhile to give him my email address in case he wanted to contact me at a future time. And then at the end of the demo, after I'd been told to leave by the stewards for the umpteenth time while I was trying to talk to one of the ultra-Orthodox Jews from Neturei Karta, Sean and I had a really pleasant interaction with a number of the demonstrators just on the boundaries of the area. And we were certainly on handshaking terms by the time that we left.
Parts of England coming here from all different parts, all the way from Scotland or Wales, and they're coming. Please make some noise. And you've got 5 pillars that tries to unite all Muslims. The things in it you might not like, things in it you like, but that's the beauty of it. It challenges and it talks about all the issues a lot of people don't want to. So please, with a nice big cheer.
Nice football.
Occupation no more! Israel is Zionists as a means of trying to establish Israel as a fait accompli, to neuter criticism of it and to divide Muslim groups who might otherwise oppose it. Interfaith with Zionists is a bit like breaking bread with a burglar who's just stolen your house. The burglar says to you, you can't have your house back, but let's be friends. No, let's not be friends. So if Muslims want to do interfaith with Jews, let's do it with the Torah Carta. Let's do it with some of the Jews of this demonstration who share our struggle against the Zionist entity. It's their voice that needs amplifying, not Zionists. Yes to resistance. Let's not be shy about this. Palestinians, as an occupied people, have the right to resist by any means necessary. And the occupying power, Israel, has an obligation to withdraw. And the law says that resistance can be military, it can be political, cultural, academic, etc., etc. And those who are at the forefront of the resistance struggle need our support. And if you can't support them, be quiet about it. But don't demonize them and have the gall to say that you're pro-Palestine. But I fear our community leaders are selling the Palestinian cause down the river as we speak, to gain entrance into the establishment fold, to get round the top table in Downing Street, to get those knighthoods to appear in the mainstream media. And if we don't stop them from going down this shameless route, then it'll become normal for Muslims to work alongside Zionists, thus selling out our Palestinian brothers and sisters.
I'd like to ask you, first of all, why are you here today?
We have to support Israel and to support the United Kingdom against terrorism.
Nice and loudly, because we've got a lot of noise, be it background noise.
I'm here to support Israel and to support the United Kingdom against terrorism.
And have you got anything that you'd like to say to the Quds demonstrators today?
Yes, I think that they should not have this march in London, that they should go to Iran and they should talk to the Ayatollahs and tell them to stop propagating terror in our world.
And I'm sorry, I lost the camera angle there. And I have one question. And have you any questions that you would like to ask to the Quds demonstrators?
I just want to know why they bring their anger and their rioting to the streets of London. They should go back to Iran and they should tell Ayatollah Khomeini to stop terrorizing the world and to allow freedom in their own country, to have the freedom they're practicing here in Iran.
I've also got a question that I'm asking to both the Quds demonstrators and to the Zionist Federation demonstrators, which is, some people would argue for a Jerusalem, but today it's about Quds, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, whatever you want to call it. Some people would say, well, Jerusalem shouldn't belong to anybody, it belongs to God, and it could be an open city under UN control, or a council of imams and rabbis and priests and pastors, and everybody would be free to come and worship there on fully equal terms. So Jews can go to the Kotel, Christians can go to the Church of Holy Sepulchre, Muslims can go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. What would you think about that idea?
So currently Jerusalem is free, anybody can go there to pray. The Christians go to the Sepulchre and the Muslims go to their mosque, and the Jews are the only people who are restricted from going to their holy sites in Jerusalem. But Jerusalem is the eternal capital city of the Jewish people. It's not the capital city of any other people. But the Jewish people, as the guardian of Jerusalem, doesn't restrict anybody from going to their holy sites. So it's a fallacy when they say that Israel fights against Christians or Muslims or Baha'i or anybody else. Since 1967, it's been open to everybody. Between 1948 and 1967, the Jews were not allowed to go to Jerusalem because it was run by Jordan. Now, Jordan is the land of the Palestinians. That was given to them when Israel was given to the Jews. And that's the settlement they should deal with.
I'm back home over there. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Keep moving, please, ladies and gents. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they all come out and they start shouting.
We're not moving anywhere, my son. You move there and we'll move. No, you move there and we'll move. You move there and we'll move.
We're getting our Quds demonstrators to have questions to ask to you guys, and to have giving an opportunity for you guys to ask questions to our Quds demonstrators. One side to put questions to the other and the other answer.
Every single year, you come out en masse in opposition to the world's only Jewish state. I don't see thousands of people marching against what's happening in Syria, Afghanistan, Eritrea, Sudan. Wait there. Spin round. I think he might not be sound of mind, so let's not. He looked like he was being careful by that person, so let's ignore that. So yeah, there are mass protests every year where Ayatollah Khomeini has basically put out a call for all of his followers, and not just his followers, more than his followers, around the world to stand and come out and basically call for the destruction of the world's only Jewish state. Now, the Jewish people, we've tried living amongst the nations, and tragically it didn't work out great for us. We were massacred in most of the lands that we lived. We were persecuted, we lived as second-class citizens, we lived as Vima, and it didn't work. And so all we want is to live in peace with our neighbours. There's one Jewish state in the world. We don't want a lot of land, we don't want more land than's being allocated to us. We just want to live side by side with our Arab cousins, with our Muslim cousins. And my question to the other side is, where are you when people are getting slaughtered in Eritrea? Where are you when people are getting slaughtered in Mexico? Last year in 2018, 125,000 people were killed in conflicts that were far greater than Israel. Only 289 people were tragically killed on both the Israeli and Palestinian side, but that pales into insignificance when compared to the 125,000 people that were slaughtered in conflicts around the world. So my question to people on the other side, why do you come out against the world's only Jewish state? Why? Where are you for all these other far greater and far more bloody conflicts?
One question that I'm asking to everybody, both our Quds demonstrators and counter demonstrators, is what would you say to a Jerusalem that doesn't belong to anybody, but belongs to God, or if you're thinking from an atheist perspective, is under UN control, and everybody is free to go there on a completely equal basis. So Jews can worship at the Kotel, Muslims can worship at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Christians can go to the Holy Sepulchre, and if you like to, as a way to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, start by making Jerusalem a city of peace rather than a city of conflict.
So my answer to that is it sounds like a very colonial solution. It sounds like the nations of the world imposing their will on the people of the Middle East. So Jerusalem is already open for all faiths. For basically since the expulsion of the Jewish people from Jerusalem, Jews have been unable to pray on the Temple Mount. the only nation that has opened up the city for all people of all faiths to pray there is Israel. So I don't believe global or world forces or European forces imposing control or sovereignty over Jerusalem is a solution that anybody in the Middle East actually wants. And I believe under Israel that freedom of religion exists. The reason why Jews can't pray on the Temple Mount today is because it's under the Jordanian Waqf. Over 1 million Muslims pray at the Temple Mount every single year. When a Jew prays at the Temple Mount, it initiates an intifada. Some poor old grandma living living anywhere in Israel may find herself on the receiving end of violence just because a Jew prayed on the Temple Mount. And so my solution for Jerusalem is that it should be a shared city, that the Arabs and the Jews that live there should agree to how it should be governed, but that freedom of religion should be a right for everyone, be you Jew, Muslim, Christian, Druze, whatever. At the moment, the only place that exists is the areas that Israel controls who prays, and the areas that the Palestinians control or the Jordanians control. Unfortunately, that freedom of religion doesn't exist. But I do believe there should be some sort of agreement with the people that live on the ground as opposed to colonial, European or American or whatever forces dictating how that city should function and who should be sovereign over it. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you very much. Okay, again I've got to give a little bit of context. First of all, the people shouting, "Oi, Tommy, Tommy!" were almost certainly far-right supporters who were not part of the Zionist demonstration, but who were jumping on the bandwagon by showing support for Israel in order to demonise Muslims. While I didn't have anybody shoving a banner in front of my camera, there were certainly plenty of people who showed reluctance to be interviewed, and at least 2 people expressed some concern about the consequences of showing their face on the camera. One of them saying that he was scared of being doxxed, and I had another person who said I better not interview him because the guy in the ginger beard thinks I'm too right-wing.
So, I think I need to start thinking about this going on.
All right, so I understand you guys are together at this demonstration. You're basically together, but I think you want everybody to know that you're just good friends.
From Israel. I'm the mayor of everywhere else as well.
Okay, are you with any organisation here?
We can't comment. We cannot comment.
You cannot comment. That's okay. That's okay. You're with Southern Council.
All right. Well.
Okay, that's fine. Can I ask you? Have you got any questions that you'd like to put either to
What
the?
I'd like to ask is.
Yes.
Why are people hating Israel? How did Anthony Joshua get beat? Yeah.
How
did Anthony Joshua get beat? Yeah. That's what kind of debate I thought it was, bro. I didn't get it. Like, she's coming in on skates like that. Right.
I have lost you a bit. You were saying something. I can see you got a Star of David tattoo.
I'm against Anthony Joshua. Whatever. Yeah.
Anything you'd like to ask to say to the Quds demonstrators?
We've just got to say, keep Israel on. Anthony Joshua got beat, so we're not asked. We see it all. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
To ask them is, they want a free Gaza. Would it also be free for gay people? Or are they still excluded? Would they still be thrown off buildings or whatever they do to them? Yeah, I support Israel's right to exist. I strongly support their right to exist. And I don't think that, listening to some of the chants that's been coming from the other side, that calling for Israel's termination is really the way forward. It's certainly not a way to achieve their own aims, because I don't know how you can call on the genocide of a nation, the nation of Israel, in order to make Gaza free. It just seems a contradiction, totally contradictory. So no, I'll always stand by Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. I think it's everybody's duty to stand with them, because without Israel in the Middle East, I think that we'd see the world order change drastically. So that's what I've got to say. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now, one thing you mentioned before we went on is that you're not Jewish, and yet you feel very strongly enough about Israel to come out today. And why is that?
I just don't like to see people oppressed. I don't believe that the people in Gaza, the Palestinians in Gaza, are oppressed. Israel doesn't occupy Gaza, and the only people that are oppressing the Palestinians in Gaza are Hamas. They launch rockets from highly populated areas into Israel, and when Israel vacated Gaza in 2005, the Hamas took tunnels in order to get closer to Israel, in order to fire rockets and make incursions into Israeli territory. I'm against that.
Thank you very much. And I've got one question that I've been asking both the Quds demonstrators and the Zionist counter demonstrators, which is, how about here, because this day is, at least in name, it's about Quds, which is Arabic for Jerusalem, or the Hebrew Yerushalayim. And how about if instead of Jerusalem being Jewish or Muslim, it would be an open city under UN control. From a religious perspective, you might say it belongs to God, and Jews and Christians and Muslims would all be free to worship at their own places. Jews at the Kotel, Christians at the Church of Holy Sepulchre, Muslims at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and Al-Aqsa Mosque on a completely equal basis. And instead of Jerusalem being the centre of conflict, Jerusalem could be the start of a peace process by being the city of peace.
I think it's a noble aspiration. Whether or not that'll ever happen, I don't know. I don't feel I'm the person to answer that. It would be very nice if it came about, but I don't think that I'll ever see it in my lifetime. I think there's going to be a great deal of trust on all sides before that actually becomes a reality, to be honest, yeah.